Can you hear me?
Of course, definitely.
Great. Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure and honor to be here. Thank you, Maya. Thank you, Fan, and also thank you, Yue, who made the connection. You can call me Moritz. No, Dr. Gomm, please. And I'm located in Darmstadt, close to Frankfurt. I lived in Hong Kong and I built up a company there. And I also lived in Shanghai for a few months, but I'm in Germany now. I'm back in Germany. But I've lived in Asia for 8-9 years, also in Thailand and Malaysia. And yeah, the subject today is a subject of my heart, a matter of my heart. And I'm happy to share my ideas, experiences, thoughts. I will share my screen, of course. Let's see, can I share it? Can you see something?
Yes.
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 Okay. Yeah, you can also ask me personal questions. That's totally fine. I think it's to build a company is something very, very personal because you bring in a lot of yourself. And yeah, I wrote a book. It is called How to Start a Business in 90 Days. And since this is a book club, I think I should also tell something about how this book came about. Yeah, I did a PhD in management. I'm a computer scientist in management from my studies in Darmstadt. And when I finished my PhD, I decided I wanted to start a company before I do anything else, because I always wanted to do that as a young boy. And I thought that's the chance, because later I will have kids and everything. So why not now? And I gave myself 2 years after my PhD with more or less no income and said, okay, I will try to start something with a friend of mine. And 2 years, no question asked. So I think that's was a very good idea, because you don't have to doubt yourself every day if you have a fixed time box in which you work. And yeah, after the 2 years, we built up 2 companies, actually. The first one failed, and the second one we sold successfully. I will tell you more about that later. And after the 2 years, I joined the company, which is Zühlke Engineering. And I'm with Zühlke for 10 years. It's an innovation service provider and consulting company. So we've got over 1,000 engineers and consultants, and I always felt the urge to start new things. And I also realized that a lot of my friends and also my family, people were complaining about their job, and they were unhappy in their job, and they wanted to start something on their own, and they had some ideas, but very, very few dared to do the step. And I thought, well, it would be good to have a sort of template how to start a business without leaving your job. And I had this idea back in 2012, so 8 years ago. And I started a bit on my book, but I was too busy at my job and in my other activities. And last year, I had the opportunity to write this book, and just released it in December, so it's pretty new. And yeah, I will tell you later why I was able to release this book last year. Okay, let me tell you a bit more about myself. Yeah, I'm 46 now, so I'm past my half-life, I guess. And I practice what I preach in my book, because I'm still employed. I'm employed with 50% at Zühlke, because Zühlke is just a very, very cool company, a great culture, growing. Yeah, I love my colleagues. I learn a lot and I can do a lot there. I can be very entrepreneurial in that company. But I also work as a startup coach and consultant as self-employed. And I also do little startup ventures, which I will tell you about later. So I sort of try to live in both worlds. And maybe one day I will just be working on my own stuff, because there's not enough time to do both. My first startup was a ride-sharing platform. I don't know if you know that in Germany. And yeah, we built a pretty cool thing. It was called Hopping.de, but the business model was not really viable. So we switched to a totally different business model, which was a little part of our hopping infrastructure, was a payment system. And we took this payment system out and called it MiniPay. And it's a really, really cool payment system, which is still running today, 11 years, 12 years later. Now it's called SEPAnet. And I just want to show you how it works, because it's so amazing. If you want to sell digital goods on the internet, PayPal was pretty new those days in Germany. It was very hard to get money, especially for small amounts of money, like sell a picture for €1 or an ebook for €3. And what we built is a micropayment system where you can include a button into your page, which takes 2 minutes. When you click on the button, you don't leave the page. You just open up this little dialogue. You put in some data, but you don't have any account. You don't need any password, anything. And you can just do a debit payment. And then you pay and it closes. And then you get this thing via email. So it's still very, very innovative, I think. And this company did pretty well. But my 2-year time box was over. And I said, I will try to start the company within 2 years. And if I succeed in earning enough money to live from it, I will continue. And if not, I will start a normal job. I mean, I did a PhD, I studied a lot of stuff. And after the 2 years, we had 4,000 or 5,000 transactions per month, which is okay, but not enough to live from. And my partner wanted to open up a restaurant in Hamburg. That was his plan. So we sold this company, the entire company, and it's to a strategic investor, and he's still running it today. Other startups, which I just using a Kickstarter campaign, I invented the so-called Flowbook. It's this little organizer. It has some patterns in there, and it's something to organize your daily tasks and to manage your life goals. And we did a Kickstarter campaign, a crowdfunding campaign, and it's something we've just started and it's growing. Another very important step, of course, was building up Zühlke Hong Kong. So Zühlke is, as I said, an innovation service provider, engineering consulting company in Europe. And we started to go to Asia in 2017, 2018, to Singapore. And I was the manager to go to Hong Kong and build up a subsidiary there. So I hired my first employees from Germany in Hong Kong. And I took 4 people from Switzerland, Germany, and UK. And I flew there with my family. I've got 2 kids. And I built up this company from scratch, which was really, really cool and adventurous because there was nothing. It's like a white piece of paper. And after 1 year, we had 20 employees, a few customers, had very, very wonderful revenues. It was very successful. But I also met my own limits. Since I was the only manager, I had to take care of recruiting, of sales, of project management in a big banking project, HSBC, probably know them. And as you can imagine, making bank projects, and it was a fintech style app, is quite stressful. And I ran into a burnout 2019. So still in Hong Kong, I had serious problems with sleep and other stuff. And I spoke to my CEO, and they did everything they could to sort of help me because they knew it was also a bit their responsibility because they sent me alone to Hong Kong. Normally, we always use 2 managers. And so I came back in the summer of 2019 to handed over my role as a director to a friend of mine who came from Germany, from the German branch. And everything went smooth. So the team was cool. The culture was similar to our German culture, which was very impressive for me. And I came back to Germany to recover from this stressful sprint. And at the end of 2019, I decided, okay, I think I have to do a cut. I've got 2 children now, and I'm working my ass off. So I decided to take a sabbatical. That's what I did last year. And I also spoke very openly and wrote an article about my experience with the burnout within my company and received a lot of feedback from other people who have similar issues, but didn't speak about it yet. So for me, that was quite a life-changing thing. And I decided to reduce a lot of stuff or remove, which I built up in the last 45 years. And this is something I also share in my book. And that's important for you to know because this book is not about how to become rich fast, as many startup books are, but it's more about how to develop a lifestyle which makes you happy, which of course you need money, but there are much more important things than just money. If you have enough money, there are much more important things. And enough money is pretty early in our Western societies. Okay, I also, of course, coach startups. I've always done that. And here are just a few the more high caliber ones. Freeman just sold their company for $100 million US dollars in December. And they started with us 3.5 years ago. So I was with them in the first workshops. So it's a fantastic story from the money wise. Unibright is a blockchain integration company. Valuation is 90 million. They just, because Bitcoin is going up, they're just going up as well. But also things like Königskinder, it's the childcare center chain in Berlin, which I sort of consult and help when they had questions. They do very well without me now. And yeah, many others more. But you can see it's a wide range. It's tech, it's non-tech. And when I speak in my books, it's about starting your own business. It's not about starting the next Google or next Facebook or the next big tech Tesla thing. I think there are two very different types of startups. One is the young student team want to change the world and dream big, of having a company which is a unicorn in a few years. That's totally fine. And I think it's totally cool to do that when you're 20 or in the mid-20s. But my book is for people who already have experience, who have already worked and want to start their own business to have a more fulfilling life and more self-dependence and more freedom. But I will talk about that in a second. Today, I want to discuss 7 questions with you. And the 7 questions relate to 7 steps or 6 steps in my book. The first one is why start a business? I've just started to talk about that. What is your driver, your motivation? And then, of course, the very, very important question about starting a business in these days. We are in Corona, we'll be past Corona, hopefully in half a year, 1 year, 2 years, who knows? Is it a good time or not a good time? I want to discuss that. And then when you start a business or when you're already working and you're thinking of starting something on your own, you really have to think, okay, what is it that I can have to offer? What are my strengths? What is my passion? What's my motivation? So that I have something to share with the market. Then the question is, if you are employed, maybe you even have kids like me, how do you make time and how do you get the discipline to start your business? Because it's much easier when you're a student, you've got a lot of degrees of freedom, but it's more difficult if you're 30 or 40 like me. Then you have to find the business idea that suits you, that is viable and something you're happy with in 5 or 10 years. And the most difficult question, I think, and a lot of people struggle, is how do you test and then implement your business idea? Most people start with implementing rather than testing. And last but not least, sorry, I don't know how to remove the screens here. Okay, the last question is, what is the right scale of the business? Because when you do something you love and you're good at, the chances are that you're successful. And if you're successful, the chances that you grow and get bigger and bigger. And if we are talking about starting a business to become more freedom, have more freedom and be happy and have a good balance of work and family, then you should ask yourself the question: how big do I want to get my business become? How big do I want my business to become? And that's a question most people don't think about. They just grow and grow and grow, and they find themselves being, in a hamster wheel of their own company at the end. Okay, does that make sense? Is that interesting questions to discuss today? Then let's get into this. Can someone help me how I can remove this control, because it's laying over my slides? I can see okay. Okay, so why start your own business? The main driver for many people is, of course, the dream of financial wealth, like this millionaire here throwing around with money. The bad news is that when you look for literature and books about that, you will find either a lot of empty promises, like get real quick without much effort, it's all going by themselves, or 6-figure incomes in only 6 months or 3 months. The internet and YouTube is full of these videos. Or if you really want to get really, really rich, it's a hell of a lot of work. And it's not a problem if you're young, but when you're in the mid of your life and have other priorities like family, then 80 hours weeks, no partner time, no children time, risks of burnout or other health risks. So I think that this is not what I want to promote in my book. I said before, self-determined life is for me the main driver. And I found a quote from Confucius for this talk. I hope I wrote his name correctly here. The superior man uses his wealth to make his life richer, and the inferior man uses his life to get wealth. So what serves what is the question. And of course, this is also true for women. He's from the old times, and there people were talking about men always. Today, we also talk about women, of course. So let me give you my definition of rich. What does rich mean for me? For me, rich means to have time to do things that make me happy. So it could also be a job that fulfills me because I just love the craft I'm doing, with people who are good for me or who I like to be around with. The independence to decide for myself, to be free and not controlled by others. And last but not least, of course, I need to have an income to finance my lifestyle. But the income is something, a constraint that you have to do the other. It's not the only and main goal for me and for this book. So I think this is something to pursue. Okay, let's a little excursion, a little side path. What about starting business in times of Corona? Maybe I can ask you, I mean, we can try to make it a bit interactive at this point. Who of you would say that starting a business now is a rather good idea or rather bad idea? Maybe we could also, if you have an idea about that question, just open your mic and give me 2 or 3 comments. What do you think?
Do we have any attendees?
No, he has been house speaking.
Yes. Oh, we receive a lot of participation.
Okay,
should I start?
Yeah. The moderator does, yeah.
Okay, so should we welcome the first lady, like whoever mute the microphone? Ladies first, if the gentleman are okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Okay, so I think during this time, it really depends on what kind of company you want to start up. So for like those real shops or restaurants, which is actually very unlikely because of the lockdown. But if you are doing something small business like transportation or like online videos or online games, for those kind of companies, I think this is a really good time. So that's my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jie. And the next person, I believe there is a gentleman who muted the mic, right?
Yeah, he's been house speaking.
Fen Hao, welcome.
Okay, yeah. As I said, I have some technical problem with my camera. Don't open it. I hope you can understand.
Yes.
And come back to the question. I think it's always a good time to open a new business. For me, there's no bad time for a business. There's only bad time for your preparation. If you are well prepared, you can always open your new business. And also seeing the Corona time, I think if you're going to start some new business like the online stuff, that's always good. And even if you start something seemed a little bit traditional to us, it's always a good time because it's a good chance to overthrow the old king and be your to be a new king. And that's my point of view. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Fen Hao.
Okay. So I agree with both of you, but I would be even more bold. I would say yes. These times of crisis are always startup times, because there are 3 very, very good reasons. I think both of you mentioned them. And I would say it's only the stuff that's currently hot, like online, because the first thing is that with times of crisis, the demand changes dramatically. So old markets become obsolete and new markets start, and there's nobody tackling the new markets, and everyone is struggling in the old ones. And you can even open up a restaurant. So someone here around my corner opened up a restaurant this summer, and it's extremely successful because she does vegan food for people in this living area. It's not a commercial area. I'm in a living area. So everybody's in home office, and she does vegan bowls. So it's very, very healthy. You can pick it up. It's more or less cold, so it's not hot even. And she's sold out by lunch, so you have to order by telephone. So she nicely shows that even now you can open up a restaurant if you have the right positioning. Yeah, vegan, takeaway in an area where a lot of people have a home office. Bam, and it's very, very good food. If it wouldn't be very good food, nobody would go there. But I'm recommending it to everyone. So there are long queues in front of the store when she opens. So new markets. Then the procurement opportunities are much better now. So if you want to buy advertisement, for example, nobody's buying advertisement on outdoor posters, for example. Yeah? So in times of crisis, you get a lot of things much, much cheaper. Sometimes 10 times cheaper. Advertisement, qualified people, because they don't have jobs at the moment. So there's a lot of opportunities. And last but not least, and very important, is that you can take advantage of the upswing. Because if you think about opening a company now, you will start working on your company, but will open probably in 3 months, 6 months, or half a year, or 1 year. So if you think about starting a restaurant, I think it's a very good time to start a restaurant, because a lot of restaurants will go down. People will have a lot of need to go eating again. Of course, you don't open it tomorrow, but you open it in half a year. Yeah? So you're in a very, very much better position than 2 years ago, when every restaurant was already there and was successful and stuff. So, and if you start in times of crisis, it only takes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and you can use this time to grow. If you start on the peak of the economy, and then 1 or 2 years later, the crisis hits you, then you're exactly in that phase where you don't need a crisis at all, because you're very, very vulnerable then. Okay, so there are a lot of good reasons, and there are a lot of examples too. If you look at Airbnb and Uber, for example, they both opened during the crisis 2007, 2008, because if you look at the first one, new markets, Airbnb was offering very, very affordable ways of sleeping somewhere else. And that was exactly what was in the people had less money. Or take Uber, good procurement opportunities. A lot were out of jobs, so they could start as Uber drivers. Could use their old car and start a job as Uber drivers. So it shows you that it really is a very good time. So I agree with Belau, the second speaker, that there's always a good time if you start the right thing, but times of crisis are the best times, because the economy is sort of reshaped. Microsoft started during the oil crisis. So there are a lot of examples of companies who started when everybody thought this is a bad time to start. Okay? And as I said before, if you have a job, I recommend people to start their business and start trying out how it is to have their own business while still being employed. Then you have sort of best of both worlds and still have the security of your old job, as long as the new one is not ready to really kick off. Okay, so what I did for myself and what I do with others and what I propose in my book is to start with yourself and ask yourself, so what are my strengths and what drives me? And I offer a few, my book, sorry, I think I really haven't talked about. The book is, as one part, it's about 100 pages about sort of the groundwork, and there's 150 pages of tasks. And there are 90 tasks for 90 days. Yeah? So every day you have one task, every working day. The weekends are free. And the first few days are about how to find out your strengths. And I just want to give you a few ideas here. So one very, very good way of doing that, and it's very valuable anyhow, even if you don't want to start a startup, is to ask 5 of your friends or relatives who know you very well and who you trust. Send them an email and ask them 4 questions. Where do you see my strength? What are topics which you would come to me if you need advice? What are things you remember that I've done really, really well in my life? And a general question like, what sort of thing would you think would fit? What sort of job would fit for me? So that's also very good if you are just looking for a job and not for starting a company. And it's a lot of people who do my 90-day program say it's such a good idea, and they love it because you get feedback and you get a lot of thoughts and views about yourself, and it's just does yourself good if other people tell you what you're good at. Surprises, like things you would never expect that you're good at, or maybe other way around, you think you're very good at something but nobody mentions that. So there's a lot to learn. When we talk about strengths, there's one interesting aspect, because it's very likely that you're not aware of your biggest strength, which sounds a bit paradox, but it's true, because it is your strength and it's so naturally for you, you don't perceive it as a strength. It's so easy for you that you would say, come on, that's not a strength. Yeah? But it is, but just not for you. So people might come to you and say, well, you're so good at speaking to people. And then you're like, what? No, come on, everybody can do that. Or at explaining things. And really? Me? No, that's normal, isn't it? So be aware that you might not be aware of your biggest strength because you're so familiar to it. And also in my book, I give a task where you have some sort of forms of intelligence, like analytical, visual intelligence, social intelligence, stuff like that. And to just check which one, two, three of these skills and forms of intelligence are something you are very familiar. And that's sort of one side of the medal. So what are your strengths? And the other one is what inspires you, what motivates you, what drives you. And again, I think it's one of the observations I make most often is that people come to me and say, I don't really know what I want. Yeah, I'm 25, 35, 45, and I've got the feeling I'm not really happy, but I don't know what I want to do. And they really suffer from it. And there is a few ways of getting closer to your motivations, because they might be a bit hidden from education, from what your parents expected from you, from what society expects from you, so that you really have to dig a bit. And one way is to look at your childhood dreams, for example, to think, what do I want to become when I was a kid, when I was small? Of course, you don't have to take this one by one. So if you wanted to become a pilot, it doesn't really mean that you want to become a pilot, but it means that you want to work with technology, that you want to take responsibility, maybe that you want to work in small teams. So everything that is associated with being a pilot, or with being a bus driver, or whatever you wanted to be as a kid. Or another way is to look at role models. So who did you admire when you were young? Who do you admire today? What are their characteristics? What makes them special? Because that's something that resonates in you. So it's something that you probably also have in yourself and would like to let out. And then there are some exercises to, if you sit down and think, if money wouldn't matter, and if all other would matter, what my parents expect from me, what my partner expects from me, what would be my dream life and dream job? What would I do? Would I live in the Himalaya? Would I go traveling around the world? Would I have a farm of bees, or whatever? Yeah? To really take away the constraints, to get a closer look to what is inside you that wants to come out and be you. And the fourth one, which I want to present here and talk about, some find it a bit strange or morbid. I don't know what's the English word for that. Eulogy is the speech that is held when you're dead. So when your funeral day comes, all the family, all the friends come, and somebody holds a speech about you. And it's a very, very recommendable exercise to write your own eulogy. Sit down and think, imagine you're lying there, you're dead. There's no responsibility. You don't have to prove anything anymore. What would you want the other people to talk about? What would your friends, your parents, your brothers, sisters, your colleagues talk about you? What would they remember? And write it the best way you can imagine. And this will show you what you really care for. Do you want to be a person who was very responsible for others, very open, very creative, very arty, very whatever? Because when you're dead, there's nothing left to prove or to impress anyone. So it's a very, very good exercise to look backwards, and then you know what you want to work towards while you grow older.
Dr. Gomm,
yeah.
I just have a burning question here.
Yes, please.
I want to know if you have really practiced this eulogy, and what's in your eulogy when you wrote your own one.
Yeah, I've practiced it a few times already in my life. It's a good exercise to do every few years. I do journaling, so I write a journal, and every few years I write this eulogy. And it changes a bit, because when you're mid-20 and you start your first job and you want to then it would probably read more about how good I brought the company forward and how I established new markets for Zühlke, for example. And now it's more about sharing, caring for the environment and stuff like that. So it's much less about being big and successful and famous, but more having a deeper impact on people, on giving, passing on experience, on being open and vulnerable. I mean, you don't want to be vulnerable when you're 25, but when you're 45, it's something which is makes more sense. So yes, I've did it a few times, and I will do it again, and I can recommend it.
Thank you very much. Yes, because I thought it could be a very uncomfortable thing to do.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
Because if I do it now, I think I will have a lot of regrets.
Yeah, but that's good because if you have these regrets, it's good to know them now, because you will have them when you're on your deathbed. And if you're much younger, there's a lot you can still do to not have these regrets anymore. I think the exercise, it sounds, I mean, I don't know, it depends on the culture also of the society. How do you approach death? In some cultures, they speak openly about it and make big parties. In others, you don't talk about it. In Germany, it's you don't really talk about it. Fortunately, in my family, it's something we're quite open about it. So my grandmother always told me, "Oh, I will be dying, and that's okay." And the same with my mother. So I think it's very good. Death is very, very important for life. And I think Steve Jobs said it, that death is life's best change agent. Because in the face of death, you know what's important and what not. And you can do the exercise in a different way. I also propose that you can just imagine it's your 80th birthday. You're still healthy, and all the friends and family are celebrating you, and somebody's talking about you. You can do that. That's okay too, because you're quite close to the end of your life, most probably, but you're still not dead. But if you have a problem with thinking about your death, that's something you could work on, because it's something important to be aware of. Okay, so, and I've got 10 exercises of this sort, and I propose to consolidate them in a mind map. So we talk about motives, the wishes, forms of intelligence, skills, childhood dreams, and stuff like that. And then you can play with these and see which one fit together. And this is just an example of someone who wants to be a freelance inventor, really develop ideas for a clean environment. And you can see that a lot of things fit to that. The external image of the friends and family, and the intelligence forms and the motives and stuff like that. So this is just an image. I don't want to go through it in detail because it's just an example, how to consolidate, to have a full view of the aspects that you gathered in these exercises. And these mind maps, I used them quite a lot when I was studying. They're very good to condense information and use the left and right brain hemisphere. So it's a good technique, I think. Okay, so now that you know more about yourself, you learned more about yourself, the next question is, okay, how do I find the time and the discipline for my startup or my idea? That's another question I'm asked very often, because people have jobs, they might have families, and now I also want to start a business. How shall I do that? And I don't go into too much detail, but finding time is quite easy for a lot of people when you look from the outside, because when you look at what people are doing all day, and if you look in the statistics about TV and media consumption, it's like 3 to 4 hours per person. So there's a lot of potential, if you're willing to sacrifice this important time of sitting in front of the TV or browsing the internet or the smartphone and all the messages from the social media. So I give some ideas on how to systematically identify be it digital or non-digital one, and how to sort of use this time to work, to free time for starting a business, because it's a good idea to start with that early, because when you start the book, the exercise, the work per day is approximately half an hour to 1 hour per day. but it gets more as you move forward, of course. So at some point you need to start making time for that. And the other one is the discipline, because that's of course a big issue, especially if you're a busy person, is how can I make sure that I focus and do the right thing. So it's a lot about self-organization. Just for one example, it's a good idea when you start your working day to not start any digital device before you have sort of defined 3 things that you want to achieve today. That's something I recommend. I don't have a to-do list. I don't have a big to-do list which grows, and there's always a lot of stuff in there which probably will never be done, but always is on my list. So every day I start with a blank paper. I write down things that if I manage to achieve these 3 things, this day is a good day. Yeah. And it's totally fine if these 3 things take 2 hours or 3 hours only. So at 11 o'clock, I'm already done. I already have a good day. Okay, I still got time left, so I can do another 2 to-dos. So I can add 1 or 2 items. And when I finish them, I can add another one. And this allows me to always prioritize, because priorities change. Yeah, I mean, the overall priorities doesn't change, but sometimes something feels very urgent and you put it on your to-do list, but 2 days later, actually it's not urgent at all, and you still have it on your list. So, and I talked to you about the flow, this, I don't know if you see my camera as well. We invented this thing, and this is exactly this principle of 3 tasks per day. You have a task book and you have a goal book, and the goal book is something that develops over life. The task book is something that you use operational every day. And you've got a goal card, which is a card which shows you your goals. So everything is in this little thing, and it works quite well for me. And what I also do is I always put a timer on. So I put my smartphone on 45 minutes or 1.5 hours normally in the first round. And then I work on these 3 tasks. And I check emails. So most people, when they start working, the first thing they do, they check emails. And then they get stuck answering and forwarding and doing stuff. If you work for 45 minutes or 1 hour concentrated on the stuff that's really, really important, and then have half an hour at 11 o'clock to check emails and have some discipline on not answering everything that's there, you save a lot of time. Because otherwise, until lunch, you've just done some emails, and then you think, oh, I have to go for lunch now, and then the best part of the day is already gone without really productive work. Another aspect, of course, is if you're a perfectionist, that's something that can be very, very stressful and time-consuming. I guess most of you are aware of the principle that with 80% of the time, you normally can get 20% of the result. Other way around, for 20% of the time, you get 80% of the results, or that 20% of your customers make 80% of your revenue, or 20% of the tasks you do every day produce 80% of the results. So concentrate on these rather than on everything or doing it too perfect. 80% often is enough, especially if you're a startup. You really, really have to be very, very able to start with something which is not perfect. And then there are other things that you can think of decluttering your everyday life. There's a lot of stuff that can also be physical, like workplace tidiness. Such things I sort of explain and propose exercises to step by step be more organized and more focused. Okay. Now comes maybe the most important, interesting part, because all the other is interesting for everyone who, even if you just work in a normal job, yeah, to know more about yourself, to be organized, to be disciplined, and to have time. So how do you find your business idea? Again, I have a little bit of different approach here, I think. I recommend to determine your target income first, to think, okay, how much money do you actually need? What is the lower limit that I have to make in order to this venture to be successful? And this, of course, means the money I need today plus money I need for the future, which I have to earn now. And I think that's very important if you are engaged or married even, to think about the total money and the total work time. For example, my wife works 70% on her job at a software AG, it's a software company, and I work 50% at Zühlke, and the rest is my private business. And together we have 120% committed work. And I think that's a good value if you have kids. A lot of people have 100%, 100%, or 100% and 80%. And I find it extremely stressful. I see other couples with kids because you manage. It's okay. You survive, but you don't really have time. You don't really have the attention for your kids because you're so busy and you come home from work and you're stressed and you need time for relaxation. So I recommend people when you have children one day, family, to in sum, both together should be between 100 and 150%. Yeah. So if both work 50% and it's enough money, perfect. If it's a bit more, still okay. But don't both work 100% if you have got 2 kids or more, or 1 kid. Then the question is when, how much, and where do you want to work? So again, I'm always talking about people in midlife. I'm not talking about young students. So if you have kids or if you have parents to take care of, how much time do you have for that job? And can you travel? Is it okay to go away, or do you have to be close to home because you've got small kids? Stuff like that. So these are questions that we answer systematically to get some sort of framework or constraints for the startup, for your personal life. Then after you've looked at your strengths in the first few days, the question is, okay, what sort of strengths do you think you want to leverage? Because you normally have a few of them, or maybe also a few passions. And after deciding that, then the question is what you want to do specifically. What could it be that you want to offer to the market? And this is extremely wide range. So I will do an example here from a lady who wants to open up a yoga studio, to somebody who wants to develop a product innovation, some hardware gadget. And since it's so wide, the variety of things that you can and want to do, I don't have a specific sort of formula how to create your idea, but I have a framework which I will show you how to elaborate it. And that's what we will do next. So let's look at this example. Anna is a lady, she's an accountant. She's working for an accountant for 20 years already. She has 1 daughter, she's pretty close to leaving the house soon in 2, 3, 4 years. And Anna is always thinking about starting something on their own. But she calculates she needs around 40,000 euros per year. I also even, by the way, I recommend to also calculate your upper limit. So not only the lower limit, how much money do I need the least, but also how much money do I need the maximum. And that is enough to have the lifestyle I want. Yeah? For me, that's about 10,000 euros a month. Yeah? That I don't need more than that. If I have more than that, I can use my power to do other good things or maybe use the money for other purposes. But I firmly believe that more money doesn't make you more happy from a certain point on. But that's something very, very individual. I think from my understanding of the China culture, money is extremely important and the status associated to success. If it makes happy, it's a different question. Okay, so she still has her daughter. She wants to work Monday to Friday, 6 hours a day. So that's 30 hours a week, and wants to be close to the family, so not traveling too far. So not traveling abroad for her job or for her startup. And she likes to work with people. That's something she really, really likes. And that's something she can do with her job as an accountant because she has a team, but that's not really a job. She did a lot of side learning about health, and she did a yoga teacher certificate for 3 years. And she says, I want to reduce my accountant work and I want to start working as in a yoga teaching business. So I want to run a yoga and health studio. She wants to combine these two things. Health is about food also, and about lifestyle and awareness and stuff like that. So this is one example I want to talk to you about. Now, I don't know if you have heard about the lean startup approach. Probably those people who have thought about startups must have come across it. It's a book called Lean Startup from Eric Ries. It's the blueprint of Silicon Valley startups 10 years ago, and still used a lot. And the idea is to you have an idea and you really radically have to sort of build something to have some product that you can then test, measure, get data from these measurements, learn from these data, and improve your idea. So it's a incremental approach, and you have to come close to the customers to test your ideas as soon as possible, and we'll talk about that later. So your idea is that what you had as your start idea from the previous exercise. In this case, it's run a yoga health studio. And she thinks, wow, it's a good idea. She heard a lot of complaints from other colleagues, from her business, from her company, that it's so hard to stay healthy, work in the office, because you come to work in the morning and then you have lunch there with your colleagues, and then you come home in the evening, and then you don't have any time to go somewhere else. So she says, why don't we offer yoga exactly there where people work, in the commercial park, so they can do it at lunch, they can do it before work, they can do it after work, or maybe in between. That's her general idea. Yeah. And then you have to think, what hypothesis does my idea have? So the hypothesis is people are willing to do something for their health. One hypothesis is that they would like to do it close to office because they don't want to travel to somewhere else. The hypothesis is that they find time at lunch in the afternoon or before the office hours or after office hours. So these sort of things you need to collect, because they're all theories, they're all hypotheses. You don't know it yet. You have to test that. And there are two ways to build something. We actually call it building, prototyping or minimum viable product. I will talk about this later. So you try to make your idea tangible and sort of buyable without having finished the entire product or service. So that's actually the most important approach. Have an idea, and if you ask people about the idea, like, oh, I want to run a yoga, I want to open a yoga studio here, would you come? A lot of people say, oh, that's a great idea, I think I will come. Yeah. But you can't, this is not very valuable, because if you ask people, they will very often say yes, they will tell you what you want to hear. And if you open up the yoga studio and then they have to sign a contract and pay money and go there every week, a lot of them won't do it. Yeah. So if you rely on feedback, if I build this, if I offer this, will you buy? You will get much more yes than you will get in reality. And that's a very, very big trap. And that's also one very important advice. If you start a business, don't rely on what people say they will do if you will do something. You have to turn it the other way around. You have to pretend it's there, and you have to get a purchase decision. You have to get the people to say, yes, I will buy it now. And how we do that, I will show you later. And if a lot of people say, yes, I will buy it now, then you start really implementing it. It sounds a bit weird, but it works. And it's also, from a moral standpoint, it's okay. I will show you later. So measuring and testing means get out of the building. So stop sitting in your room or in your office and thinking about what people want. You have to go out and test it, to collect data, to learn from that. And maybe you conduct interviews to learn more about the data you've learned. And then you have to think, either preserve, yes, the idea is good, I'll do another round and test other things, or I have to pivot my idea, because one aspect of this doesn't really work and I have to change it. And that's the second very, very important lesson learned from me and for every startup I worked with. You start with one direction, you've got a vision, and you try to move towards this vision. But as soon as you get in touch with the market, you will get feedback that will ask you to change the path. And very often you will turn out somewhere very, very differently than you started. But that's okay, and that's necessary, because you will learn with the market what they really want. You have an idea what they want, you start working with the market, and they will tell you what they are willing to buy. And then you have to be flexible enough to change. And very, very often people come up with B2C ideas, so something they want to sell to customers. And very, very often they end up selling something to businesses. Okay, so talking about business plan. When we started our first business, 2007, the ride-sharing service, we wrote a 50-page business plan, as was normal in those days. And that's a lot of work, and there's a lot of, it's complete waste, because it's a lot of work. It's just something you sometimes need for banks, but more innovative capital contributors don't need that anymore. So don't write a business plan. Yeah, what you do instead nowadays is use a sort of canvas to start sketching out your idea. And the most famous ones are the business model canvas and the lean canvas from Ashmerai. And these two canvas, I like them both. And normally I work with the lean canvas in the early phases and use aspects of the business model canvas in later phases. And that's why I combined the two. So if you look on the right side here, this is the most part of these boxes are the lean canvas, and this is adopted from the business model canvas, and it's written down here in the lower line. Okay, so what is this? A canvas is something you print out on paper, quite big, and put it on your wall, in your war room where you work on your idea. And as you can see, it sort of puts all the things of a business model into one framework. And there's a specific way on approaching and filling out these little boxes. And what you do is you use Post-its, little pieces of paper, and write your things there and stick them in here. So you can change them, you can move them, you can erase them and stuff like that. So it's very flexible. It's a living document that always shows you the current state of knowledge about your business idea. And the way to start is always with the customer, who you want to approach. Who is it that buys your product or uses your product or service? Yeah? That's the most important decision to make, because everything else derives from. And what normally what startups do is they start with a solution. They start here. They start with this fourth box here, solution. I've got a great idea, I want to do this. And then they think, who wants to buy it? But the better way is to think, who are your customers? Who you want to approach? And then the second question is not a solution, but the problem. What are the main problems these customers have with respect to what you're thinking of? For example, yoga studio, what are the problems of these people working in a commercial park? What are the very, very important problems? And one thing is important to know about problems, because everyone has a lot of problems. We have a lot of problems, but only very few we are willing to spend money on to get rid of them. Yeah. You might have a lot of apps on your phone. Most of them are for free because they don't solve real big problems, because if they would cost something, you wouldn't buy them. So make sure that you don't only find a problem, but really tangible problems that are worth spending money on to solve them. And after the problem is defined, you still have the solution. You think about what is it that you can offer to solve these problems for these customers, which is unique, which is not there yet. And for that, it's good to think about the existing alternatives. This is below in the problem box here. Can you see my mouse pointer?
Yes, we can see your mouse moving.
Okay, thank you. So you can think of, okay, how do they solve these problems today? Because, I mean, all the people are living, so they are sort of solving these problems somehow. Maybe there are existing alternatives which are not good enough, or they improvise or something. And then think of what is unique. What does my solution offer? My value proposition. What do I want to? And the value proposition is about the result of going with you. It's not a solution. It's how you feel or what you get from it. And after you've defined that, then you have everything you need to define the actual solution. And I will do an example. So if we look at the yoga studio example again, my customer segments are office workers in a commercial park. Pretty easy. What problems do they have? All these people working on offices, they have health issues because they sit on a PC for 8 hours a day, and everybody knows that that's not good for your back and your neck and everything else. They normally have little time for exercise because they are, especially if they're in the midlife, have family and they have other duties. And if they have a full-time job, there's not much time. And they also commute because the commercial park people are people who come there by morning, come back in the evening, either car or train or bus, and they have lunch there. So these are things that, these people face, which we want to offer a solution. And now you can see what the value proposition is. I help office workers to stay healthy and fit with only 90 minutes per week. Yeah. And you can see it doesn't say how they do it. It doesn't say yoga. It doesn't say it's a studio, blah, blah. It's just something they want to offer to tackle these health issues with little time for exercise. And you could add something like close to the office. Yeah. And now we can think about solution. It could be a space close to work. So in the commercial park, we offer relaxation and yoga courses and also offer snacks and drinks, so healthy things. And if people go in the lunchtime, they can do their yoga or their course and then have a little smoothie or something to eat, a salad, and then go back to work. So everything which is healthy and makes them stay fit is offered there. That's one solution. But you can have tackled exactly the same thing with a different solution. You could offer tailored in-house yoga courses at the customer's office. So then it would be more like a B2B business almost, so that you go to the companies in the commercial park. Let's say there are 80 companies, and you tell them, we've got a very, very great offer. We come to you at 2 times a week for 1 hour, and we use one of your rooms to offer a yoga course so that your people are more fit and are less sick and happier at work. Yeah. So this shows you the difference between a solution and a unique value proposition, because both of these solutions can fulfill this unique value proposition. And now Anna might want to test which one is more in demand. Yeah? A yoga studio to go away from office, or yoga teachers to come to the office and help them become healthy. Okay. So as I said before, now it's important that we test what we assume. And how do we do that? And I talked about that when we talked about the lean startup approach, how to test and step-by-step implement your idea. And here I want to introduce the term prototyping. Another very, very important term for startups and everybody interested is the minimum viable product, MVP. But I will talk about prototyping today. And this term was coined by Alberto Savoia. He's a Google engineer at the moment and a very creative guy. He's from Italy, but he lives in the States. And he says, make sure you build the right it before you build it right. Yeah. And the main reason why startups fail is not because they are not good engineers or they don't have the right software engineering skills. Most of them fail with the product because the market doesn't want the product. So it's well designed, it's well engineered, it's well produced, but it's not, the people don't want it. That's why a lot of new products, also like chocolate bars in the store or toothbrushes or whatever the big companies produce, they get from the market within 3 to 6 months pretty fast, because it's not something that is distinguishing themselves from others. And with prototyping, we test the business feasibility of an idea. Is it a viable business? And not the technical feasibility, because the technical feasibility often is not a problem. And if you have technical feasibility but not business feasibility, you have nothing. Yeah? And so what you want to do is, we want to change this, if I build this, will you buy it? Yeah, to, if you buy it, I will build it. And that's quite different. Maya, how much time, until when shall I do my presentation? Just for me for the timekeeping? It's 11:45.
So far we're still good. So we have approximately like 15 minutes left.
Okay,
but
good.
You can flexibly adjust yourselves.
No, that's good. That's perfect.
Or you can save some contents in the Q&A session. Like it's all up to you, because later on the Q&A session will be lasted for 30 minutes as well.
Okay, yeah, great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just worried that maybe you need to drink some water, or just let me know, okay?
Yeah. No, that's fine. I've got my water here. Let me just give you an example for this last sentence. Do you remember the Walkman from Sony? I don't know. Maybe a lot of you are too young for that. Do you know the Sony Walkman?
Am I too old for Walkman? Yes, I do. I used to have them when I was in like primary school.
Okay. So the Walkman was the first device where you could carry music around with you. It was tapes those days. And when Sony invented the Walkman, which was a great inspirational product, like the iPhone almost, they thought, which color shall we use? And they had three colors. They had black, silver, and yellow. And then they did what market researchers do. They did some group testing. They asked people, which one do you like most? And most of the people preferred the yellow one. They said the yellow one looks cool and kinky. I think that's the best. I would like this one. I would take this one. I will buy this one. And one of the testers had the great idea when the people left the room where the interviews were taken. They were able to pick one of the Walkmans to take home as a thank you gift. And they could either choose a yellow one, a silver one, and a black one. And most of the people chose the black one. So that shows you, if people are asked in a theoretical situation, would you buy this? They'll say, oh, yeah, why not? Great. Wow, cool. Yeah, I like it. But if they really have to do a decision, then they are much more conservative and they think, oh, well, yellow is really cool, but I think I don't dare to take a yellow one. I think I take a black one. It's not so shiny. Yeah. So don't trust what people tell you. If you ask them, would you buy it? Yeah? You have to really let them buy it and then tell them, okay, now I will build it. Let me show you how to do this. I've got two examples. One, of course, the yoga studio to make it complete. So the IT is a yoga studio somewhere around the corner, like this one here. And let's say it's $10,000 to rent it and put in the blah, blah, blah advertisement, get all the equipment, and you need 6 months from the idea to opening this window, which is pretty fast already. And how would you do prototyping? How can you prototype a yoga studio? You do that by going to where the customers are. You speak to a company, tell them we are opening up a yoga studio, invite your people to join, and you get a special discount and blah, and you've got healthy staff. So they most likely say, yes, why not? And then you stand there with a little table, which you rent from a friend, and you print one roll-up display like this one, Shift Yoga, your advantages around the corner, flexible professional, whatever you think is valuable. And you bring a pack of contracts for the yoga studio. That's all you have. It's about $100. 6 days later, you stand there. And then people come to work and you speak to them. Hi, we're opening this. We have this yoga studio here. Would you be interested? And you start an interview and you pretend it's already there and you're just sort of representing it. And then when people say, oh, that sounds good, really, give me the contract. I think I would join the 3-month test period. And then you tell them, great, that's super news for us. We are happy to welcome you soon. We haven't opened yet. We are still in the process of finding out what you as our customer really, really want from it. And we've got a few more questions. And then we would like to send you an email and tell you when it's really opening. So the people get have the impression that the yoga studio, that they are buying something. So if somebody signs this contract or if they take out their purse to get money out, it's a buying decision. So you know they really want to buy it. They're not just saying, I will buy it one day. And then you go home and you think before you go there, okay, if you ask 100 people, if 20 say they will buy, then we open the studio. If less than 15, we don't do it. And if you go home and 25 said we will buy it, then you know it's a good idea to open the studio. And then you start spending this money. So what you save is 9,900 euros and 6 months of work if you fail. Yeah, and this is on the left side is the classical way of starting a business, and on the right side is the way of the lean startup approach and prototyping and getting very, very fast feedback. And of course, you can do this while you're still employed somewhere. You take a one-day holiday and go to the area, do the testing, and go back to work next day. Okay. Any questions regarding this? Okay. No moral doubt. Because I mean, it's a bit like you're cheating a bit, right? And I think it's okay because you're cheating not to hurt anyone. You're cheating to save the customers from bad offers, save yourself from waste of money and time, and save society from people who need help from the government because they invested their money in something that's not viable. So that's why I think from a moral standpoint or from an ethical standpoint, it's okay. Of course, you have to do it in the right way, do it in a polite way, value the person, Yes.
Sorry, can I have a question? Like,
Yes.
well, so just imagine we have tested and our expectation was to have 20 customers, which will to make sure we have enough money to run this business. But well, unluckily we only have 10. And what do we do? Because we don't have enough money to open this yoga studio, but we still made our promise to the other 10 customers. What should we do if we tell them like, I'm sorry, we cannot open this business for you 10? Then we kind of eaten our own words.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good
So
point.
what do we do?
Yeah, there are two points to that. First of all, if you only have 10 customers, and since you're talking to them and asking them a lot of interesting questions, you can learn and think about that. Okay, if we change our setup, yeah, maybe around the corner, flexible professional, our value proposition is not good enough. Maybe let's do a second try with a different company and see if our new idea gets more than 20 customers. Yeah. So if you have 10 customers, it doesn't mean you have to shut down the entire idea. It just means don't start it with that setup. Yeah. You have to now tinker and pivot. And the other thing is when you really have to decide, if you talk to them, you don't tell them, we will definitely open this studio, and if we don't open it, so we plan to do that. We are very passionate about health and blah and yoga. We want to find the right setup so that people like you are happy there. And when we open it, then we will inform you and tell you, and you will get a 20% discount or whatever. Yeah. And of course, you can write them an email and say, sorry, we spoke to a lot of people. Thank you so much that you wanted to join that. We found that not enough people are interested, and we don't want yoga courses to be empty. And we want a thriving business so that you can count on us in the next few years. And that's why we decided we can't open it that way. And everybody will understand that.
Okay, thank you. But during your talking, you were saying that you would have some contracts on the table. So to ask those people to really sign the contract, or
no, exactly. Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's right. So you don't actually let them sign them. Yeah. So there are two ways. The one is you don't let them sign them. So they get out the pen. Okay, I want to sign it. Then you sort of tell them the secret. Yeah. And then you get to a different conversation. Now you speak more about the yoga studio and their demands and how to sort of make it even better for them. And the first one was like the pitch of the idea. And the other one is to say, okay, we've got these contracts here and you can sign them and you get a 20% discount. But we have to tell you that what I just said. Yeah, if you have enough customers, we will start it, because it's no fun having only 3 customers or 3 yoga people with you. So it's also in the interest of the customer that it's successful and that it's viable. Yeah? So they can sign it, but it says the contract will start as soon as the yoga studio is open. If it doesn't start, we will tell you in advance, and then there's no payment. Blah blah blah. The important thing is that they show a sign of I want to buy. This can be take out the purse. Yeah, and then you say, stop, thank you, great, I love it, wonderful, you show us that we're doing the right thing. So yeah, you're right. So it's not, you have to stop the fake it till you make it process at that point when he starts showing buying signals.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Let me show you a different example that also works for totally different things, like a gadget. Yeah? Let's say you're a tech startup and you've invented this cool new idea of gesture controlling your computer. For example, for doing a PowerPoint presentation when we can do them again after the pandemic. And the device works as follows. The idea is that a person standing there can move his hands left, right, and the PowerPoint slide follows like magic. Yeah? That's the idea. You don't have to press a mouse. You don't have to hit the keyboard. And that's our idea. We're an engineer. What you typically would do, you would build a prototype, yeah, which doesn't look like the device that you're selling later. It can be very bulky and big. And then you present it to investors or to potential customers or to anyone you want to convince. Yeah, that's the normal way of doing things. If you do prototyping, you would do it very, very differently. You would come to this round of people. These can be, for example, investors who want to invest in your company. and you want to see if the company is viable and the business is interesting for investors. Or these could be customers who want to buy this, like big trading partners or something, or a mix of them, doesn't matter. So you come to this presentation and say, we've got this super cool new product, gesture control for your PC. This is the box, you put it on the table. Let me put the configuration. Okay, now I'm ready. And then you start presenting. Yeah, you move your hands left and right, and the slides move like magic. And everybody's like, wow, it really works so good. And then you ask, yeah, you can try it out yourself. Please come up. And then this lady in the front goes and moves her hand. And again, the slides move like magic. And then everyone's, what? It's really cool. It's so advanced. It works well. How much is it? 199 euros. Ah, okay. And then you can talk about this stuff. And then they can say, this is really good. We want to buy it. And then you tell them, well, it's not really ready yet. Yeah, we've got someone in the back who was using this normal click thing, and he clicked in the right direction of the hands moving. Yeah? This box, the black box, is empty. There's nothing in there. And what you did, you simulated, you pretended the experience that you would get if the product is ready. And then you can get the feedback as if the product is ready. So people would say, yeah, the technology works, but I feel really stupid moving my hands in the air. I don't want to buy this stuff. It doesn't feel well. Or people sit there and say, well, yeah, it works, but sitting here, you look a bit stupid when you move your hands. I don't think this is viable business. And then you go home and say, okay, cool, good that we didn't build it. Or if they say this is really cool, then it's really worthwhile building it. Get the point? I guess
we did. At least I did.
Yeah, great. So you can see you really have to be creative about how can I simulate the experience of this thing already existing to get a really viable buying decision, and not a thing like, oh, if you would build it, would you buy it? Yeah. So if you buy it, we will build it.
I've got a question. A short question. Before I can say this is a good idea and I will start my business idea on this conception, which percentage of people need to say yes for my survey?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, depends on your, let's go back here. Sorry, here. When you run, when you start your business, you of course you think about market potential. For example, if the commercial park has 80 companies with 2,500 employees, and you know that 3% of people are interested in yoga and health, so 3% of 25,000 people, how much is that? And then calculate how much is a typical yoga fee, and calculate, and at the end of the calculation you come up, okay, if we get so many % of these people, then the business is valid. Yeah, we earn enough money. Mm-hmm. And if it's a few % less, it's still valid. Okay, so that's fine, because it has to be, you have to be a bit on the safe side. Yeah. So it depends on your expectations. Yeah. How many units will I need to sell? How many contracts will I have to sell? And this can be 1% from people or 80%. It depends on price and margin and stuff like that. So it's hard to say, but you have to have these hypotheses. Yeah? Mm-hmm. You need them to know what you're testing, because if you go out of the office building and say 30% or 3% took the yoga course, is 3% enough or not? I mean, you can also calculate afterwards, but it's better to have an assumption before that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, can I have another question? Still about like those testing if the customers have the willing to buy your products. So I feel like, well, at least for me, it feels like we are playing around. We are messing up with like, I am saying that we are signing a contract, or we are saying we are gonna do the product, but actually that was fake. So what would our customers think about us? Like you just invite us to come here to have a test, rather than, are you really honest, really want to do business with us? So what would they think? Have you, I don't know. So
Yeah.
just like,
Yeah, of course, it's also a question of how you communicate it. For example, an investor would say, "Wow, that's very, very cool because we know how important it is to not burn cash." So they say, I mean, if they say, "Oh, this is an amazing product, I want to invest in it," what you're doing is you're pitching them an idea. You could also go to that company and tell them, "We've got this idea and we haven't built it yet," and you will have a discussion. But they will appreciate that they can sort of experience it to get a first-hand experience how it would feel if it would exist already. So for the investor, this is totally cool because that's his sort of world. The world of ideas, the world of how to make them become a reality and stuff like that. So they, if you communicate it right, will not be offended because you can tell that rather than showing you a PowerPoint presentation of our product, we show you how it works. And that's what we did. If it's customers, it depends on how.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and if it's customer, it might be that you have to be a bit more. Let's say you could tell them, okay, we've got this product. This is a prototype. I asked you not to talk about it. We are still in production, and then you just take your prototype and go home, and you don't tell them that you faked it. You don't have to tell them. You can tell them it depends what you promise them. If you say them, we've got a product here, and if you buy it, you get it tomorrow, then you've done something wrong. If you say we've got a product here, and if you buy it, we will probably be able to ship it in 9 months. And you know that 9 months is possible, then that's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's a very good answer. Thank you.
Okay, then so if the business idea is validated, and now you can see how valuable it is to test the hypothesis early. Because we've just done a bit of work here, and then we got out of the building. We started trying out. And now if the idea is validated, then we go and ask ourselves, okay, what sort of channels do we use to reach our customers for marketing, sales, services, and stuff like that? What revenue streams do we have? Do we offer yoga courses as a flat fee, or is it a 10 ticket system or whatever? What cost structure do we have? And what key metrics do we have to track to see whether we are going on the right way? These are the next things that we think of. And again, we start testing the channels. If we use flyers to inform people for our yoga course at the train station, does that work? If we ask them to sign up for a newsletter, how much of them will read them? Will they recommend it to others and stuff like that? So you have to also start working on your channels early to test them. Because like the product, the channels is something that needs to be tested. And after finishing these, the next step is to think about what are the key activities to really implement this stuff. So I need a yoga studio, I need bookkeeping, I need yoga courses, I need marketing. What are the key partners? I need yoga teachers, maybe. I need an accountant, blah, blah, blah. And what are the key resources? I need a studio, I need coffee, tea tables, I need the mats and stuff like that. And with this, and then of course, when you write this, you can update your cost structure because maybe you found something that you forgot here. So these things are all living. It's a living document, and you can each time you learn something new, you can update them. So that's why it's so powerful to use it. Also, it's very good to communicate your idea very fast. If somebody visits you, you can stand at this canvas and walk them through and explain them the idea. And then you can see connections between the boxes, and they can say, well, you said your solution is this, but in the key activities, you only said this, so maybe something is missing. So it's very transparent. If you compare this to a 100-page Word document with 5-year forecast of revenues and stuff like that, that's really, really a dead document. You have to flip through it and read it and pick out the information. Here, everything is condensed. Okay, now we make a big jump because this is just something I want to make you aware of to grow to the right size. So when you did what I proposed to sort of think what's your minimum income and what's your maximum income is the point where you say, if I grow beyond this, I want to use my extra time or my potential for things that matter to me. And if we come to our definition of what is richness or what is wealth, then income to finance your life was one of them, but the other one was the time, the people, the independence, stuff like that. So make sure that you really, stick to that. One last sentence. Super rich people have everything: yachts, villas, divorced wives, estranged children, and many worries about their money. Only one thing they will never get: enough. And please make sure that you don't miss your point of enough when you start a business and become successful, to remember to why you started it in the first place. Yes, and that's what I had prepared for today. And
如果喜欢我们的视频，别忘了关注、点赞、收藏和转发哟。